So we've had a few days now with the Goblin and the bonus XP event, and I've got to say I've been having an absolute blast leveling new characters. And in this video, I want to try and help you guys enjoy this event as much as I've been enjoying it by sharing with you some of the most fun, the fastest, and most powerful leveling builds for each and every class. And better still, I spoke with some of the best players in the world for each of these classes, and I've compiled a list of their build guides and their videos down below. Most of these guys you probably know, and if you don't, you should. So make sure you check out those links, drop everyone a follow, drop everyone a sub, because you're not going to regret it. But you know what you will regret? Not entering my first ever giveaway, which is a Vessel of Hatred Ultimate Edition game code. This is for PC Battle.net only though, so no console, sorry, but PC Battle.net. All you have to be is subscribed, like the video, leave a comment, and I'll draw the winners next week. But anyways, let's get into those builds. And kicking us off, we have the Firewall Sorcerer, a build with absolutely insane AoE. I mean, you can just fill the whole screen up with firewalls, and anything that comes anywhere near you is just going to be burnt to death. You also have Fireball, which is going to give you access to really cool aspects like Hectic, meaning that all of your cooldowns are going to be super low, but also things like Might and Undying to make sure that you are practically unkillable, which you are because you have so many defensive tools at your disposal with the Sorc as well. So you have things like Flame Shield and Frost Shield that are going to give you just insane layers of defense, and then you'll also have Frost Nova for when things do get spicy and they get through your shields, you can just freeze them all in place and then teleport away to safety. And then again, as you're using Fireball and proccing your Hectic aspect, you're going to be reducing those cooldowns very fast, meaning that they're going to be up for the majority of the times that you spend in fights. This really is a great hazard all type build. Very powerful throughout. And one thing that I love about this build, and I love about a lot of the builds on this list, is that it's actually the sort of precursor to the most powerful build, just full stop powerful end game build for the Sorcerer, which is the Fireball build. So you don't have to worry too much about, you know, swapping everything over. You can kind of just gradually progress into that build, which is fantastic. Another thing that I really like about this type of build specifically is just how well it leans into the hit and run style of playstyle. This is one of my favorite ways to play, especially while leveling. And what I mean by that is Firewall allows you to just drop the walls down as you're running through the dungeon. And when enemies try to follow you through them, they just melt and die, right? So you're able to just carry on zooming, getting through to objectives, doing what you need to do to level as fast as humanly possible. It also serves you really well in things like Blood Maiden events in the Helltides. You can just kind of stand in the middle and fill the whole place up with fire, cause everybody's FPS to drop by like 50, but you're going to be getting a ton of kills and, you know, contributing actually a whole bunch to that event. So it's a really good build for those type of things as well, which makes it a really good build for leveling. All in all, I really did enjoy this a lot more than I thought I would. If you guys know me, I've got a bit of a history with the Sorc. It was one of the classes that I actually had trouble leveling to hardcore back in like season 2 when it was very squishy back then. That's not a problem anymore. It's an absolute beast to play, and for those of you who enjoy those really cool visuals and caster classes in general, or anything with just really high mobility, because teleport, my god, I would love teleport on a Barbarian, this is going to be the best class for you. And now moving over to the other caster in the game, the Necromancer. And the Necromancer, I think most of you probably know at this point, has been absolutely blasting this season. Been very good on the high end with the minion builds, the Golem, the Shadow Mages, all of that cool stuff has been absolutely crushing. Actually, if you want to know more about the best endgame builds, I do have a video for that. Just uploaded it maybe like last week. Check that out if you like. But it's actually the same style build for leveling for Necromancers. You are going to be going minions, and this has all of the same benefits as you'd expect from, you know, the end game minion build. It's one of the best AFK farmers in the game. You can literally, now I'm not saying you should do this, but you could literally stand in the middle of the Blood Maiden event and go have a cup of tea and yeah, come back, you know, 10 levels higher having done absolutely nothing. But you could also, if you wanted to actually play the class, it has a pretty decent rotation. You've got your Iron Maiden for damage reduction and essence gain. You can also create corpses bonuses with Decompose. Sever does a lot of DPS as well. Casting Skeletal Warriors is going to spawn the Skeletal Priest, which is going to help boost your DPS quite a bit, and all of that good stuff, right? It has an actual rotation if you want to use it, but you don't have to if you don't want to. And much like with Firewall, this build is also very, very, very good at that hit and run style play, where you can just run through dungeons or run past defense and your minions will sweep up a lot of things and kill them for you, which allows you just to get to those objectives and level up fast and do what you need to do, which is fantastic. It's also at the early game a pretty goddamn tanky spec as well. Decrepify keeps things away from you, keeps their damage down, and your minions kind of just body block things from getting to you a lot of the time as well. So you just survive through a lot by nature of not being near where the damage is. But I got to admit, I don't think I died once while leveling on the Necromancer. Now I do know as the late game gets on, you will find that if you do get enemies coming through to you, you're a little bit squishier, but there are some variations to the builds that you could make to completely eradicate that issue whatsoever. But for those of you who like summons running around and killing stuff for you, I absolutely cannot think of a better class for you to play. So moving on to the third class in this list, and I feel like this is going to be a bit of a controversial thing for me to say, but this was my favorite class to level this season, and it was the Druid. I don't know what it was about it. I just absolutely loved playing Windshear. For me, this felt like the most true, the most like authentic ranged class in Diablo so far. I know you have the Sorc and I know you have the Necromancer, but something about the way they play just doesn't scream ranged class to me because of, like I said, the hit and run stuff. You're just kind of doing damage over time while running through stuff. Whereas with Shear, you're actually sitting back and just Gatling gunning things down. And you really are Gatling gunning things down because the attack speed is absolutely absurd with this build, because you're stacking it, you've got the temper that allows you to double cast Windshear and stuff like that, and it feels really, really fun just to laser beam stuff down. I really can't get over how much fun I had with this. Then, of course, you get all of the benefits from basic skill attacks, which are being able to tap into Might, Undying, also Hectic, for just becoming unbelievably tanky with super, super low cooldowns. This is particularly powerful on the Druid because you have like Debilitating Roar, which is a ginormous damage reduction debuff on enemies. You have Blood Howl, you also have Trample. You just got all of these really, really cool tools practically always available or always up because of things like Hectic and the Tempers. I felt unbelievably tanky, and my DPS, I think this was the highest DPS leveling spec out of like any class across the entire game. I was shredding stuff, absolutely shredding stuff. And like with a lot of the builds on this list, and I'm sorry if I'm sounding like a broken record here, but this is also one of the most powerful endgame builds for the Druid as well. And this is a bit of a common theme this season, which we actually haven't really seen in any prior season, but a lot of these leveling specs are just the precursors, again, to the end game meta specs. So you don't have to worry about relearning your class, you don't have to worry about redoing your gear. You pretty much just naturally evolve in a linear fashion into that more powerful version of it. But man, Druid, for those of you who are looking for a really, really cool range of feel class, this is absolutely the one to go for. And for hardcore Druid players, how nice is it to finally be able to play a spec where you can see your skins? How about that, dude? 10 out of 10. Now I suppose I should probably talk a little bit about the next class, which is the Rogue, and we're going to be playing Barrage with the Rogue. Reason being that this is a build with just absolutely bonkers AoE and speed clear. When you combine Barrage with Shadow Imbuement, you get some of the dumbest AoE clear I think I've ever seen. You can blow an entire screen up in one skill, which is very, very satisfying to say the least, and also an excellent thing to be doing if you're trying to level fast. Rogues being rogues as well are highly mobile. You have Dash that allows you to move very large distances in an instant. You have Shadow Step that allows you to essentially do the same thing as well. You have great single target DPS as well, because you will be running Cold Imbuement along with Shadow. This is going to help take down elites and bosses in next to no time whatsoever. And surprisingly much, and this is much like the Sorc in my opinion, the Rogue is really, really tanky this season. There's not really, I think besides the Necromancer, anyone who feels like they take any damage whatsoever whatsoever when they're built up right, and Rogue is no exception here. They can survive very, very well. I mean, I've seen a lot of Rogues just play like Barbarians where they just stand in everything and don't take any damage, which is, I mean, it's great to see, right? That's the best way to play in my opinion. But yeah, they are really tanky. They're ranged as well for leveling. If you like that, then this is another one that's ranged. Now, of course, there are like melee variations with the Rogue as well, but they all play in a very similar fashion, to be honest. So, you know, if you're looking at this, you're thinking, I like that, maybe it'd be better if it was melee, there's definitely that option for you as well. One thing that is different about this build is that it doesn't quite translate into a full end game build. It's one of the first ones where you'll probably be looking at swapping to like Heartseeker or something like that. Now, it's not a huge change from this build, but it is a change more so than the previous builds. And as always, this build will be using a lot of basic skills. Of course, you're going to be using Hectic, Undying Might, stuff like that. So you know you're going to be unkillable. You know your cooldowns are going to be super low, and it's going to be a ton of fun to play. So for those of you who are looking for something with more skill expression, something that allows you to have a rotation and actually play your class a little bit more than the others, then Rogue is definitely going to be the choice for you. And now finally, as always, I've left the best to last. I'm going to talk about the best class in the game now. That is, of course, the Barbarian. And for the Barbarian, we're going to be playing Double Swing Dust Devils. This is a build I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with if you've been following my channel. I recently did a video on it, and it is by and far the fastest leveling spec for the Barbarian, and of course an absolute ton of fun to play because it essentially turns your character into a bulldozer. It's one of those builds where you can pretty much just hold right click and point it in the direction of the enemies and watch them all disappear, and which I love. I think that's a fantastic way to play. Absolutely no complaints here. And what makes this such an easy recommendation is the fact that it has a ton of innate DPS. It will just hit very hard with very, very low gear. And then, of course, it's going to be very, very, very tanky too. An added bonus is that you will get a lot of these aspects to make this build work from the Iron Wolves reputation thingy for doing Hell Tides. But again, like with most builds on this list, it uses just a bunch of generic aspects that are generally very, very easy to get. This build does get pretty powerful into the end game, though it isn't quite on par with things like Bash, so you will have to look at changing a little bit later on, but not immediately. You can definitely farm quite far into the game with this one, but focusing on leveling, it is just hella fast. You have massive uptime on berserking, which means that your movement speed is going to be juiced. You're also going to have a lot of unstoppable, a lot of movement speed increases, and just generally a very quick build in terms of just kill speed and movement speed. It's the full package. It can blast bosses, and honestly, just for me, it's fun to watch all of the tornadoes just fill the screen up and shred everything to death. I really enjoy it. It's a visually pleasing build. But with that said, that is the complete list. You guys will have to let me know which one you decide going for. And don't forget, if you enjoyed the video, the way I put it together, all of that jazz, consider giving the video a like and subscribing, and make sure you check out all of the awesome creators that helped me put this list together. Like I said, these guys are some of the best for their respective classes, so definitely worth checking out. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Love ya. Bye.